like a new series. I'm kind of wrapping up Project Me, and I'm moving into minimalism and teaching. I think you can be a minimalist teacher, and I may try to be the first minimalist teacher. And if this is another journey you think you want to go through and you're new to my channel, be sure to click the subscribe button, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Last night was sitting down with my Erin Condren teacher planner, and I was tearing out all of the lesson plan pages, because as you guys know, this has been a conundrum for me for a while this year. I love my Erin Condren teacher planner. I paid big bucks for my Erin Condren teacher planner, and I was really devoted to this thing. But my school district mandated you have to use planbook.com. District-wide, no ands, ifs, or buts. You gotta do it. And so I was trying to do both, and it was exhausting. And honestly, at the end of the day, it was just downright stupid. So I finally wholeheartedly embraced doing my lesson plans on planbook.com. I just put them in this little sleeve now. I can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after lunch, and then the Thursday, Friday papers are just slipped inside between the other two, and when Thursday comes, I'll rotate the papers. But this will now be the only thing lying on my table, as opposed to this big giant Erin Condren plan book that half the time was empty with lesson plans, or I was literally cutting these out and taping them in. It was a joke. So I ripped all those pages out, and then I'm looking at the rest of the planner. I like the calendar. I like the fact that I had all my school information in one place. I like the page in the book that had my page of websites, usernames, and passwords for the educational things that I do. And I'm like, well, you know, do I really need to keep this book for a calendar when this is on my table 5 days a week? You know, and it's a calendar. So it's like, well, I guess I could take this information and put it into this one instead of having one calendar above another calendar. And then it was like, well, this page in the teacher planner that has all of my user information and password stuff, can't I just, I don't know, write all that stuff down in one of the note pages in the back of, you know, the Erin Condren book and have everything I need right there? And I did. I copied all the information down into this. And then the part that was the checklist. Before I ever got an Erin Condren teacher planner, for a grade book, I used to use printouts from our report card program on online. It's in my district, it's called MyStar, but you've got Family Access, Skyward, there's all kinds of ones. And as a teacher, I can print out a checklist roster. And for several years, that's what I used to do. I would just print out a checklist roster, attach it to my classroom clipboard that I kept with me all the time, and recorded the grades right there. And so by the time I really finished looking at my Erin Condren teacher planner last night, I actually decided I don't need this at all. There's nothing in that teacher planner that can't go in here or that can't be done with just a couple of sheets of paper attached to a clipboard. So I'm done. I cut all ties with my Erin Condren teacher planner last night, and I have to say it was very freeing. It felt very minimalist to chuck that giant plan book out of my teacher bag, and I'm not ready to throw it away. I'm not. So I buried it in the bottom of my closet, and in a couple of weeks, once I really accept the fact that I'm really not going to use this anymore, then I will throw it away. But I wasn't ready to do that last night. I still have a little emotional attachment to it, but you know what? I can already tell you it's gone. It's going. I'm done. Alright, the next thing I want to address is classroom purging. I've had a lot of questions on my last videos. Are you going to take minimalism into your classroom? And the answer to that is absolutely. But I will say my classroom is already very minimal compared to a lot of other classrooms you might walk into. I only have 4th grade materials in my 4th grade classroom. Years ago, I took out everything that I needed for 1st grade, everything that I used to use for 2nd grade, everything I used to use for 5th grade, and those are currently in the storeroom of my basement. No, I will not be throwing those away, because if you know anything about teaching, you know that you could very easily be teaching a completely different grade level next September. So I'm not throwing any of those materials away. They will be staying in the storeroom in the basement. But they're not in the classroom, because at one time I was storing all 4 grade levels worth of materials in my classroom, and it was nuts, absolutely nuts. So now it's all out, and that reduced the clutter in the classroom, gave me a ton of more storage in the classroom, and made for things to be easier to find. So having said that though, are there still things in that classroom that could be purged and gotten rid of? Absolutely. And so I will kind of pick away a little bit at a time, but I want to be honest, when I go back to work tomorrow, purging that classroom is not my top priority. My top priority is getting myself back into the routines and focusing on some of the other priorities I've put into place for going back to work. What I'm thinking about doing is maybe a Friday afternoon, using like a 1-hour block of time to get the children to help me, because I have 4th graders. They're more than capable of participating and helping, and maybe one Friday afternoon for about an hour, we all work together and we get rid of things. The kids lug it to the dumpster for me, and boom, done, gone, the end. So I may do that down the road, but it's not going to be an immediate thought. Honestly, it's really, really not. One thing I've already done to help me be a more minimalistic teacher is I've already swapped out my teacher bag, and I can link that video in the description box below if you've not already seen it, where I did my updated teacher bag minimalist edition. I'm very, very happy with that. And one of the things I was able to do for Christmas, because I am forever lugging this tripod back and forth to work and home every single day. I have a selfie stick that I lug back and forth every single day. I had a battery charger was also in my teacher bag going back and forth. Well, for Christmas, I asked for a cheap tripod. It's like $15, but I now have a tripod that will go to work and just stay at work. No more lugging this one back and forth. I have a selfie stick now that is just for work. I don't need to be, carrying that around anymore. And I also have now a small battery charger. It's like $9.99 off Amazon Prime. So I can now charge the batteries to my camera at work, and I no longer have to carry that in a teacher's bag. Because if I'm going to be vlogging in my classroom all the time, then I basically needed the basic essentials for recording to be in my classroom at all times, and gosh darn it, I'm tired of lugging it back and forth. So I now have the materials I need at home to vlog, and I will have the materials I need in my classroom to vlog. And honestly, it all collapses down to very small stuff, and it'll just fit in the corner and won't be in the way or anything. So that was one of the reasons I was able to swap out my school bag for a smaller one. Another thing I'm doing in my minimalist classroom is I am putting my Kindle to work. Just before the holiday, I wanted to use the book Guys Read Terrifying Tales, and my students love that book. It was a big hit, but because I wanted to read that book on Monday and I was working on these lesson plans Sunday night, I didn't have time to wait the 2 days for Amazon Prime to deliver the book to my house. So I literally purchased it on my Kindle, and the next day at school I read the story to the class right off the Kindle. It was fine. In fact, it was easy. It was very, very, very easy. And so Friday and yesterday I was working on lesson plans to start going back to work this week, and so I was trying to get 2 weeks worth of lesson plans done to go back. And I want to use the book called On My Honor by Marion Dane Bow. I can never say her last name. On My Honor. It's an amazing book. If you've never read this book, I highly recommend you do. It's not a long read. It's only about 90 pages, but it is powerful. It's two boys who go bike riding, and you've got Joel, who's like the responsible kid who, you know, does what his parents tell him to do, but his best friend Tony is a wild child, free spirit, and Joel's drawn to that, even though Tony usually gets him into trouble of some kind. But something very, very bad happens, and the story does not have a happy ending. There's no happy ending in this story. In fact, even as a teacher, I'm usually in tears by the time I get to the end of this book with my students, even though I've now read this book at least 10 times. I cry at the end of this book because you can't not. It's very powerful, and there's real lessons to be learned in the story, and so I'm going to be using this book with morals and themes. That's what I'm moving into for next week and the week after, on top of character analysis, internal characteristics, external characteristics, character development. Joel and the lesson he learns. You know, this whole book takes place in one day, but wow. I'm gonna be quiet because honestly I don't want to give away the ending in case you haven't read it. You want to use it in your room, but I highly recommend you check it out. But so one of the big struggles I have as a teacher is when I decide, oh, I'm going to use this book now. I have to go in my classroom, and I usually have to spend 10 to 15 minutes looking for the book. It's in my room somewhere, but so is 1,000 other books. You know, I seriously have like 1,000 books or more in that classroom. And so finding the book I want to use is a real pain in the butt. So I went to Amazon Prime, searched on my honor, and it turned out it's only $4.99 to get the downloaded version, the ebook version, for my Kindle. You know what? I spent $4.99. And now that book is in my Kindle. It will always be in my Kindle. I will never, ever, ever, ever have to search for this book ever again. Am I going to do that for every chapter book I read in my classroom? No. But, you know, there are books that I use constantly because they are truly favorite books of mine, and the children there's such an impact on the children when I share these books with them. So that dozen books, that like a list that I know I want to share this book, and I want to share this book, and ooh, I love sharing this book. Those ones, as the need arises, may end up on my Kindle. Even though I have the paper version in the classroom somewhere, you know, if 12 times a year I have to spend 15 minutes looking for a book, that's a lot of time wasted searching for a book, whereas I can just stick it in here and never have to look for it ever again. So I will be using my Kindle as a way to minimize lost time in my school year. I think that just makes a ton of sense to me. The last strategy I want to talk about for getting minimalism into my classroom is to eliminate cutting out all these teeny, tiny pieces of paper that teachers love to have the children store in Ziploc bags. I think of real stressors and real time wasters in class, without question, cutting of manipulatives is without a doubt the worst one. Fraction circles. This is something in 4th grade, my students with the Everyday Math program, we do it every year, and the math book has allotted 10 minutes to cut out all those circles and to cut out all the little pizza slices that go with those circles. Do you want to know how long that lesson really takes? Just the cutting, not the lesson, just the cutting. An hour. And at the end of an hour, I will still have at least 1 or 2 kids who are not done yet, because you have to cut it all out, cut all the little pieces out, and then you have to flip the pieces over and initial every single piece. Because this way, 10 minutes later, when I find 5 fraction circle pieces lying on the floor, I can flip them over and know who those pieces belong to. So It's a colossal waste of time. It's a colossal pain in the butt. And it's a huge source of stress. So in the future, what am I planning on doing? Maybe I will make a couple of sets myself that I run through a laminator, cut them myself, and have like one baggie per table. And that's it. One bag of fraction circles per table, instead of having, you know, 6 students with 6 bags of these little pieces of paper at the tables. They all get mixed together. They get lost. It never fails. The day of the cutting, you're going to have at least 2 students absent. So now the next day, they have to get all their cutting done. What a waste of time. What a stressor. And you know what? There's probably actual materials or things that you can do in place of that. Pattern blocks. Pattern blocks are perfect for, you know, having fraction pieces where you can overlay on top of the other to find out if you have equivalents and things like that. So I am eliminating all of that cutting from lessons. It's insane. It really is insane. And because the children usually do such a horrible job cutting them out in the first place, that the fraction pieces are not the correct size. So all of a sudden, you know, 3/5 is equal to a fraction that it's not equal to because they've butchered the pieces and they're lining up wrong. So I am eliminating that. That is now part of the minimalist classroom. No more whole lessons involved where the whole class is cutting out small scraps of paper. It's just not going to happen. The last thing I want to talk about today is a posting schedule for YouTube. I have never had a schedule in the past. I've always just posted when the moment was right or I had time or I could fit it in. But the truth of the matter is, I am a type A personality. I like routine, I like structure, I like having deadlines. I work well with that type of environment, I really do. So from now on, I will be posting videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I think this will work well for me. The video on Wednesday will be, you know, maybe a minimalist video or a Project Me video or whatever video I want to do. Whereas the Saturday video will probably be a teacher vlog video. So I think this will work really well. I think it'll alleviate a lot of the stress and anxiety that I get from feeling like, I gotta post a video, I gotta post a video. Now that I have posting schedule in place, that's actually going to take a lot of stress off of me. And you guys now know that you can expect 2 videos a week on this channel, and you can anticipate when they're going to happen. And if I miss a deadline and the video goes up the next day, I apologize in advance. I am human. Life happens. You never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to have that kid who suddenly is fine and 5 minutes later they're throwing up and your plans go out the window. Life happens. So with that, I hope you enjoyed these ideas I've had for becoming a minimalist teacher, and I will hopefully get even more ideas as I go back to work and start putting these into practice. Because one of the things I've learned with just Project Me is that as you go through it, you become inspired to do more and more, and it is a learning process. And I really do hope you guys have been enjoying going through this process with me. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me in the future, click the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later.